Hey y'all, I'm Stephanie. I'm the current program director for Athens Science Café, and we're here today at the Georgia Museum of Natural History for our A Day at the Museum Science Café. So I'm going to go ahead and walk you through the building if you come in late so you'll know how to get there. And then we're going to join everybody, the friends of the museum, and start our tours. So follow me. So we're walking in. You'll notice this excellent antelope. Museum open house this way. We're going through. And here we are. We are in the annex. And I don't know if you can see this, but like look at all of these cool animals. Okay, let's keep going. Look at all this cool stuff, y'all. Oh, and there the people are. Let's go start this cafe.
They have information in here as
yes,
well.
That's a good point. So we typically have our cafes at other venues like Little Kings downtown, which you may be familiar with, and other larger places when we have higher profile speakers come from either outside the Athens area or other places. And yeah, we have plenty of information. If you want to sign up for our email list, you'll get regular updates on what our next cafes are. And also, if you have any suggestions or things that you'd be interested in hearing about or seeing a cafe on, you can leave that information with us as well. So feel free to ask me any questions if you have questions about the Science Cafe in general. But I think with that, I'm just going to turn it back over to Bud, and we can actually start seeing some of the interesting stuff that's in the museum.
So, for those of you who have not been here before, this is the Curation Annex. So in this facility, we house our marine mammal collection. Most of our mammals that are bigger than lagomorphs, right? So it's a rabbit. Anything bigger than a rabbit is out here. We have a mycology herbarium. We have a series of coral collections. We've got freshwater and marine mollusks. We've got reptiles and amphibians, fishes, genomics, other wet material that we've got in fluid that's in littering, it's on the inside. And so what we'll do today is go around and try to have people stationed around who know something about some of the various aspects here, and just walk in groups and ask questions. All right, and then admire the crazy stuff that's in the hall. Skulls of animals you've never seen. And we'll let you all feel the hippo teeth and realize why you do not want to mess with flies. Even the dead would be dangerous to your fingers. So with that, let's get a beverage. Those that are able to get a beverage, and we can just no bottles.
Oh, it's okay. Hi, everybody. We're about to go tour the fishes with Mary, so I'm going to let her introduce herself.
I'm Mary Freeman. I'm on the board of the Friends of the Georgia Museum of Natural History.
Awesome. Okay, let's start our tour.
All right,
Are
come
y'all
on
ready?
in. Now, we have a few fishes here.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, right. Y'all can come on
Everybody
in. Yeah.
come on in. Wow. So this is our fish collection on all the fishes.
This is more than I wanted to know about fish.
Already. Dr. Wallace is bored. These animals have vertebrae. And so these are fishes that have been collected over about the last 70 years or so in Georgia. It's pretty deep collection. We have representatives, mostly Georgia fishes, of which there are about 300 species, but then representatives from other parts of the world, certainly. And they are arranged in phylogenetic order, all the way down there to the end of the room.
Whoa.
Phylogenetic
Do
order.
you guys know what phylogenetic means? That's a big word. It is a big word, and it means that they're arranged in the order of ancestry. What?
What's it on the end?
What's at the very far end?
Yeah.
Darters.
And is it based on DNA evidence or?
Any more phylogeny is largely based on DNA. That's true. Yeah, that's true. And since you mentioned DNA, so the fish collection is deep, and it was really started by Don Scott back in the 1940s, who collected extensively around Georgia. And so you can just imagine that we have, in these bodies of these animals, we have a record of Georgia from 60, 70 years ago, Georgia that doesn't exist anymore. And as we get better at pulling DNA out of formalin preserved animals, as well as information like stable isotopes out of animals, these are clues back into facets of our environment of the past that there's not any other way to get at. You can't get it on the web, right? It's in the specimens. The specimens are irreplaceable. You could certainly look at metal accumulation, absolutely. And we dabbled a little bit just looking at stable nitrogen isotope ratios to ask how polluted was the room. Was that showing up? Are there signals of the environment in these critters from the time when they were collected? So every jar has got a label in it that tells us exactly where it was found and on what date and by whom it was collected. And then to go along with every specimen, there's a computer record that tells us everything else that was collected at the same time. So there are two kinds of data here. There are the actual specimens, and then there are these living records of what was found in different places, and many of them have been collected many times over a number of years. So there's a temporal record. And then about 20 years ago, we started collecting animals specifically for DNA analysis. So everything on this side of the room, these are the genomics collections, and they were originally collected into ethanol. So that preserves the DNA, whereas more traditionally, we preserve animals in formalin. And so that's a growing collection. The University of Alabama still has his fishes, and they have a museum as well. Yep. So I invite you. Yes, go ahead.
I was just going to say half was a student of Don Scott's.
Cap Teachin was certainly a student of Don
sure
Scott's.
was.
Yes, he was. Yeah, Don had him out collecting caddis flies out of the Illinois River.
Well,
They weren't doing
he was
fishes.
trying to head him in the right direction.
Right.
How many species of fish do you estimate have gone extinct in Georgia?
There are some.
Lost.
There's probably not a native in Georgia, and some of those are probably globally endangered. For those of you old enough, many of you, about 4 of us are old enough to remember the snail darter. We got some specimens of snail darters here.
So can anyone utilize all of these preserved specimens, like in research?
This is what it's for. They are for research, although of course, to use museum specimens for research, we want to do it in a way that preserves their value for future projects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But folks that are doing research in the museum specimens understand that. So absolutely.
For example, when I first started at Diners, I used fish that are in our genomics collection, and in order to make sure that none of the morphological characters that are important for taxonomy were destroyed, out of each one I took a nice little fillet out of the right side or left side?
Right side.
Right side of each body, maybe 2-3 millimeters wide. Small enough, nobody wants to eat a fillet of yellowfin shiner, but it was more than enough for what we needed to do a lot of genomic and DNA testing and identifying how these populations, this is a fish that's found across Georgia and into the Carolinas, and how one fish has that kind of distribution is the kind of question I ask. But then we put the fish back in, with their individual identifiers. And for that matter, we know that we've already been there if we pull out a fish and it's got a little fillet taken out of the side. But all the characters that an ichthyologist would want haven't been touched.
Right.
So, yeah.
And we
What's an
leave the
ichthyologist?
left side of the fish for the museum.
This is an ichthyologist.
So the left side is left for the museum. I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
I asked what an ichthyologist is.
It's somebody who is enamored with fish. It's fish worship. So many of us think we are theologists.
Oh.
I say I'm an ichthyologist, and Mary may say that, and it's like, oh, that's so nice. I said, do I look like a man on the cloth? I don't know. But it is fish worship, so that the theology part is right. But it's a study of
This is
fish.
being streamed from Facebook. I'm just telling you. So a few years ago, so this is the bulk of the museum fishes, except for fishes that are waiting to be accessioned and put on the shelves. It's a big job, but and I'll make this plug, applied to museums all across the U.S. and probably all around the world is that in our new world of information, the information age, there's a lack of appreciation for just the need to curate materials and maintain and keep the stuff together and keep track of the information and keep it in a way that everybody will have access to it far into the future and be able to see things that probably are disappearing from rivers. And so a lot of this material out here we brought down from Northeastern University, who about 10 years ago said when the head of their museum retired, they chose to close their museum and disperse their materials. And that, in fact, a lot of the whale material, the marine mammal material came from there as well. So it's a constant reminder that we need publicity. We need folks, even people who are never going to actually come in here and study a sucker like this one, but to appreciate that we have places, natural history museums, that are maintaining the situation but are past and using that material in ways that are going to affect us and not just beautiful animals like this black red horse.
But on this genomics database, is this being accumulated somewhere? What's the story on that? I mean,
The database?
yeah,
Yeah.
but where is that done?
Yes.
We've got about 130,000 specimens.
Genomics?
Genomics. I think I'm using 13347 is this new Juro spider from Tacoma. And that's a tissue number. So that's how many tissue numbers we have in the collection.
So it's a computerized database of
It's a
everything that's
computerized
here.
database.
So, and is this shared by people across the country, or what?
We haven't been sharing it across outside of the university. It's not online.
But it's here.
It's
You know,
here,
it's here.
yeah.
If somebody wants to ask or find something. But anyway,
so we
we're
get requests for you have lessons or tissues, for example. I've had a couple of those lately.
Well, as a botanist,
Yes.
and we have, a herbarium of dried plant specimens.
right.
We are able to send those to researchers who request them wherever they are in the world. Are you, with liquid preserved things like the fish, do you
We
have
do
to
make
require
loans.
the person to come here, or is there some way that you can loan
No,
those?
we'll ship
make
ones.
loans. And so when you ship a lot of fish, so every one of these jars is a lot. There are a lot of lots here. I'm mixing terminology. So we may send 10 specimens of one species, and we'll keep them damp, wrap them individually in cheesecloth, pack them maybe triple bag, put the tiniest amount of ethanol in there so they won't dry out. Okay, and then we can ship it
seal
like that.
meal.
Okay.
If it's a type, we probably would not ship it.
Right.
All right. If it's a paratype, we only had one, we're going for some real assurances.
And would you expect to receive them back?
Yes.
Definitely expect to receive it back.
Absolutely. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have things that we borrowed 20 years ago that are still sitting on the desk. But I'll give them back.
Eventually
We'll get them back.
Usually a professor retires, and then all the loans are set up.
This is important. I mean, and that's a big part of the museum is loaning stuff to people who need to work on it in Sydney and around the world. So it's not just static. It's not just stuff that's out here in a room that only Bud cares about. There's a large user group, and it's all of us eventually. But I would invite you to stroll the stacks here and take a look at what's here. If anybody has a particular fish they want to see, we'll try to find it.
Yes. What's your favorite, Mary? I'm
The
very
Halloween darter.
Can we go see it?
Yeah, let's go see. Let's see if we can find one. I don't even know if we've got any on the shelf. Let's see.
Halloween daughter. Where is it?
Is it orange and black?
Yes. Well, in life. I mean, sadly, thank you.
Signed up for it.
So Mary, these colors in fish
Yes.
are basically they are chemical colors then if they.
Some are structural and
Oh,
some are structural. But
Well, if you have structural ones, they pretty much keep the color.
that stuff will stay, you know, so the silvers and the blacks. And we need to get into the constants here. I might be going on right now. Oh, I ran into the mammals, so I have to get back the other way. Let me see if I'm finding the light. Hey, bud! These are mammals these are not fishes, these are mammals, they have legs, but that were collected, a lot of this is stuff that was collected by our first director of the museum, Josh Laram, pitfall traps, and he introduced them to me. But Josh uncovered records of small mammals that we thought were gone from Georgia, and we just hadn't looked.
I thought Joshua primarily on shrews and things like that.
Yep. Well, these are, what do we got here? Blarina was a short-tailed shrew. So, yeah.
So creepy. But so cool.
Yes, he did. Well, look, Pisca and Chattahoochee. Let me see if I can get the whole lights on.
Here's some fishies. And it just goes on and on and on. Oh my goodness. Is anybody all right? Rather than formalin?
I don't know if it's just there.
Aha, okay. Very cool. Have y'all seen anything interesting?
Yes.
Yeah?
Have you seen something interesting? What's interesting? Sharks and stingrays. Ooh, let's go see the sharks.
Oh, sharks and stingrays. Cool.
It's very overwhelming.
Yeah, lots of curation.
Where to start?
All in one room down there underneath the old.
Okay, y'all, I think I know where something really cool is in here that I'm going to share with you. Are you ready? This is what I think it is, right?
Baby tiger.
Yeah.
So what do you do with them? Like, so you have all these fish. So do you keep them in case someone wants to look at a particular type of fish?
Right? Each one of these things has been eating. It's in the information at night. Those are all windows in time. I mean, so if we have enough collections over a period of years for critical core areas, we'll see what these are. As we have the ability to get to isolate DNA out of formalin fixed tissue that's stored in ethanol, then it opens up the whole collection for a lot of genetics. And things we haven't even thought to ask questions about yet. And so we can get short snips of DNA.
Hey, Mary.
Okay, you want to see my favorite fish?
Yes, I do. Did you find it?
Yeah, it's down here. So
Okay.
it's a darter, and darters are persets, and they're pretty advanced. So we don't
Okay. Sorry, we're going to go look at the Halloween darter, y'all.
And so we're getting closer because here's some sunfishes.
So are these all grouped by, like, if they're closely related, they're next to one another in the
And
collections?
so by
Okay.
family. So down there at the very beginning are the lampreys that don't have jaws,
Mhm.
and then we work our way through. And so now we're up to the more advanced fishes, the perciforms.
Okay.
And we're looking for the family Percidae.
Percidae.
And
Is that Latin?
it is Latin for
I see.
perch.
Persina.
And so the Halloween darter is in that same genus.
Okay.
And it's in its Persina crypta. And so now they're in alphabetical order. So here we've got the log perch, which are very cool. The log perches are beautiful little animals, and they could be my favorite, but they're not. But they're good. And so more log perches and log darters. And there's a jar of Halloween darters that were collected at Uchi Creek in Alabama.
When were they collected? Do you know?
I do. 1996. That
Okay.
probably sounds a long time ago to you, but to me it was just yesterday. And there is MC Freeman and the other folks we had out there that day. And we, at the time, this was an undescribed species, so we were very interested in it. And it's one that is, except for Uchi Creek in Alabama, it's a Georgia fish in the Flint, the Chattahoochee rivers.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it loves those rocky shoals down the Flint River. So if you've ever been down to Spurl Bluff or canoeing, this is one of the dominant little fishes. Let's see, we got one that's showing off a little bit. Here we go. That one shows a little better. I don't know if you can tell, these have little tags.
Yeah, so each individual one is labeled?
They're labeled because they were used when the fish was described as a species.
Oh,
that
that's
was
so
number
cool.
one out of this lot from Chickasawhatchee Creek near Elmendale, Georgia, collected in 1992, 18th of May. And each one of these had their scales counted and the fin rays counted as part of that description.
Oh my gosh, that's really cool.
They're better when they're alive, but they're pretty cool fish.
Yeah.
And now there's a record of them in 1992. It's a long time ago now.
Yeah.
Right? And so these kinds of records are useful for folks who are going back and saying, well, how's our environment changed? Because we know in 1992, we know that we managed to collect 15 specimens of this fish. Is it still there now? Somebody can go look and see.
Cool. Thank you, Mary, for sharing us your
This is
favorite
so fun
fish.
for me. Yeah, absolutely.
So how did it get the common name Halloween darter?
It's because of the black and orange colors.
Okay.
Yeah, and when we first found it, it was in October, and we pulled this fish up. We said, "Gosh, we've never seen this one before," and it had all this orange on it, and so the name stuck. It was
I
perhaps a
love
little unfortunate, but it
I like
stuck.
it. I like it a lot. Well, thank you for sharing with us.
Absolutely.
There's so many cool stuff. So much cool specimens. Do those have specimens in them?
Absolutely. Some of these, this is an interesting tub right here. This is 1963, the Chattahoochee River in White County.
Mm-hmm.
And Pond and Upatoy Creek. So Don Scott, and he was our founder of this collection and one of our mentors. So these are, I mean, you start going back that far, these are such valuable material. Scott included collections of places that are now underneath of reservoirs, so you literally cannot go back there and it be a river. It's it's completely different.
Very cool.
So those are fishes, but you probably noticed that up here we have freshwater mussels.
Yes.
And now there's another group that is highly endangered, has disappeared. North America has more species of freshwater mussels than any place else, and they, largely because of pollution, have disappeared from most of our rivers. And they're not so easy as fishes to identify, to know what they are, or to have a collection. We've been fortunate to receive collections from other curators.
That's fascinating. So what are these empty glass bottles up on the top shelf for?
Those are just
Waiting for
supplies.
specimens?
Yep.
Okay.
Just waiting for specimens.
Oh, very cool.
That's right.
I love it. Well, I want to thank you all for joining us on this tour of the fishes with our ichthyologist, Mary. We're reconnecting. There we go. Come on out to the Georgia Museum of Natural History and learn some stuff. Have a great day. Take it.
And the interesting thing is we have more than anybody, and we don't even get Minke whales off the coast of Georgia. They all came from Northeastern, and now that we've developed this amazing relationship with Massachusetts DNR, and nobody else will take any whales, they're trying all the time. Like Bud said, he has 3 more. And if you guys have any brilliant ideas of where we could fit 3 more whales this summer, please feel free to share, because my job is Tetris, and I'm kind of, after 6.5 years of finding more and more and more space, I'm almost imagined out. Almost. I have a few ideas.
You have one on display, right, on the University of Georgia campus?
One of the little Minke
One
whales.
of the little Minke whales.
Where is it?
At the museum on campus, in the gallery.
Okay.
We just have one of the skulls out there. So that whole bay is Minke's. And if you look, this is a common Minke whale. This is the one that we have, the Balaenoptera cutorestrata. And that's the size of a human in relation to the Minke. So they're a smaller, 20, 30 feet.
Still huge.
Opposed to, when we go down there, I'm going to show you a fin whale that can be up to 75 feet long. So,
oh my goodness.
We're talking about this guy compared to that guy.
If you said you're getting the Minke whales from, you said Massachusetts, from DNR. Are they ones that are washing up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're part of the Marine Mammal Stranding Network, and we have always just gotten stuff from Georgia. But since Northeastern lost their funding, they were taking almost all of DNR's stuff. They were sort of like the Massachusetts Marine Mammal Stranding Network official repository, although they had several. But everybody up there, the Northeast, they just don't have space to spread out.
Yeah.
We complain, but there's at least hope on the horizon. If you're Harvard, you're not getting any more space. You just have to make the walkways narrower and do this. So they keep sending us stuff, and I get emails all the time. Can you take another? And I'm like, well, Trek, can you give us 6 months? Leave it buried for just, eventually when we get the mezzanine and we can move stuff up there, then yes, I'll take a bunch more whales from you.
I didn't even know that was up there. Are these all marine mammal bones?
That's anthropology stuff,
Okay.
or archaeology. And that's like when they do test digs and stuff for compliance to make sure there's not archaeological sites when they do either federal or state projects. That's results of those digs, and now they're getting their own space. So we're going to get that mezzanine, and we'll be able to take over that, which will open up space.
Okay, awesome.
Other places. So over here, we got North Atlantic right whales, which is one of the most endangered animals on the planet. There are very few individuals left. Georgia, the coast of Georgia is one of the only breeding grounds. If you look right here, this data is kind of old, but you can look, and all of these blue are sightings. So those are not individual whales. That's every time somebody saw a whale. Because I get people all the time, I thought you said there were barely any of them left. Like, they're all over the place. Well, that's every time one was sighted. So the same whale may be represented here 50 times. But this is basically where the calving grounds are. So you can see, essentially it's from midway through South Carolina through, pretty much the northern half of Florida. Occasionally they go a little bit farther south. But the bulk of it is right on the, between the Georgia-South Carolina line and the Georgia-Florida line. And so we have the vast majority of the North Atlantic right whales calving off of our coast. If you look, we also have Kings Bay Naval Station, Mayport Naval Station, and this is one of and the Savannah Harbor. So we're talking about one of the heaviest ship traffic areas on the eastern seaboard. And so these guys, if you look around at our collection, reflect that. We don't have a single entire skeleton or skull. They're all broken because they get hit by ships. And their behavior promotes that. They're kind of lazy. They exhibit what we call logging behavior. They kind of just lay on the surface. They're called right whales because they were the right whale to hunt. They had really high oil content. They floated after you killed them. and they lay on the surface as entire pods. So the whaling ships could go and find 30 of them all at the same time, and they didn't even have to pull them up in between harvests because you could just harpoon them and they'd float there until you killed all the rest of them. So these guys sort of were the perfect trifecta for extinction. Extremely slow reproductive rates. They don't reach sexual maturity till, at least 12, 15 years. They only breed every 3 to 5 years. They only give birth to one, maybe very rarely two young. I mean, it's, like I said, the perfect combination, perfect storm for extinction. And there was a lot of hope. They were really recovering well, and the last couple seasons have been really bad. And there's a whole lot of reasons suspected for that. I'm more than happy to talk to you later about those, or talk to Jim Porter. He knows a lot about whales too. But yeah, so I'll kind of point out the broken parts, and once we see some of the other intact skulls, I think it'll make more sense what you're looking at. But when they're really broken, it's kind of hard to tell. So these are the nasals. So that's this part right here, along with the top of the roof of the mouth. And I'm literally touching the roof up there of the mouth. So this is upside down. That would be its rostrum. And those are ribs. These big, huge bones that you see are bottom jaws. And so I get the question all the time, why are their bottom jaws so big? So these are strain feeders through their baleen. So if you think about it, how much does each gallon of water weigh? 8+ pounds, 8.5 pounds. So if you're a whale and you open your mouth and you have this huge pouch that will fill up with water, that bottom jaw needs to be pretty stinking strong to hold the weight of all that water as they come breaching up, and then they just push all that water out through the baleen, use their tongue, wipe all the little critters that they find off of the baleen, and that's how they feed. So bottom jaws are crazy big, and we looked at the toothed whales down here. You'll see that their jaws are like really flimsy. Like, I'm scared to touch them sometimes because they might just break. And so you think these things that feed on krill would have like the little flimsy jaws, and the stuff that like orcas. I mean, if you look behind us right there, that jaw that's on the bottom, that teeny tiny thing, that comes from a sperm whale. So that's Moby Dick's jaw. It was really a kind of a letdown. I saw that, I was like, really? That's what you're afraid of? Moby Dick? And then I said, from the marine mammals, yeah, strandings. Most of ours are either Georgia or the Northeast. We're getting a lot of them from Massachusetts. So, like I said, rostrums, ribs. So this big, huge piece right here, which, rolling towards you.
I didn't know that was on wheels.
That's a shoulder blade right here. This is the base of a skull. So you can picture the foramen magnum where the spine would go in. It's kind of where.
Hi everybody, thanks for joining us. Thanks to the Georgia Natural History Museum for having us, and to see you at the next cafe.